Welcome to another chapter in the saga of the American West, where battles between native tribes and settler forces shaped the fate of a vast and untamed land. Today, we delve into one of the most iconic, yet often overlooked, clashes between the Texas Rangers and the Comanche warriors, the Battle of Antelope Hills. This battle, fought in the rugged terrain of northwestern Texas, was not only a test of military strength and tactics, but also a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle for control over the region. The Texas Rangers, known for their fierce reputation and unyielding spirit, were at the forefront of the Anglo expansion into Texas. Their history is interwoven with tales of bravery, violence, and justice in the lawless frontier. On the other side stood the Comanche, the Lords of the Plains, a tribe famed for their mastery of horseback riding and their deep connection to the land. The Comanche warriors had long resisted the encroachment of settlers and soldiers, using their superior knowledge of the land and guerrilla tactics to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. But in 1858, at the foot of the Antelope Hills, these two forces would meet in a battle that would define the destiny of the region for years to come. This was not just a clash between two groups. It was a confrontation between different ways of life, two cultures with vastly different views on land, power, and freedom. The outcome of this battle would have a lasting impact on the Comanche and their ability to defend their land, as well as the future of the Texas Rangers and their role in the expansion of the United States. So, join us as we journey back in time to understand the origins of this conflict, the key players involved, and the dramatic events that unfolded on that fateful day in the Battle of Antelope Hills. To truly appreciate the significance of the Battle of Antelope Hills, we first need to understand the broader context of the Texas frontier in the mid-1800s. At this time, Texas was a state still in its youth, admitted to the Union in 1845, and the conflicts with Native American tribes were far from over. Following the end of the Mexican-American War in 1848, many Native tribes were pushed further west as settlers flocked to Texas, eager for new opportunities. Among the tribes that resisted the most were the Comanche. Their territory stretched across parts of present-day Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and New Mexico. The Comanche were an incredible force, with a fierce sense of independence, a deep spiritual connection to the land, and a warrior culture honed through centuries of living on the Great Plains. For the settlers, the Comanche were both a symbol of resistance and a constant threat. The Comanche were known for their raids on frontier settlements, their lightning-fast attacks, and their ability to disappear into the vastness of the plains. They were masters of horseback warfare and were capable of taking down entire villages with overwhelming speed and ferocity. This made them one of the most feared tribes in North America, and no one understood this better than the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers were formed in the early 1830s, during the days of the Republic of Texas, as a law enforcement and military unit designed to protect settlers from both Native American tribes and Mexican forces. Their tactics and methods were shaped by their environment, and they quickly became known for their tough and relentless approach. By the time of the Battle of Antelope Hills, the Rangers had earned a reputation as some of the most skilled and daring soldiers in the West. But they were not without their enemies, and their clashes with the Comanche were frequent and brutal. Despite their formidable skills and reputation, the Rangers found themselves in a difficult position in the years leading up to the battle. The Comanche were not easily defeated. Their warriors were mobile, elusive, and deeply entrenched in their ways of life. For the Texans, this conflict was not just about securing land. It was about survival in an unforgiving environment. And for the Comanche, the battle for their homeland was a matter of protecting their way of life from the constant pressure of westward expansion. The Battle of Antelope Hills was not a spontaneous event. It had been brewing for years, marked by a series of skirmishes, raids, and escalating tensions between the Comanche and the settlers. In the late 1850s, the Comanche began to conduct increasingly aggressive raids on settler communities in Texas, pushing the Rangers into action. In response to these raids, a group of Texas Rangers, led by Captain John "Jack" Hayes, began a campaign to confront the Comanche in their stronghold. Hayes, a legendary figure in Texas history, had built his reputation on his ability to track down and fight native forces, earning respect from both his peers and his enemies. His leadership would prove critical in the upcoming battle, but he was not the only figure of note in this story. The Comanche, under the leadership of their chief, Pita Nocona, were also preparing for confrontation. Pita Nocona was a shrewd and skilled leader who knew the land better than anyone. His warriors were fiercely loyal, and he had made it clear that they would not back down from the Texans' advances. The stage was set for a dramatic showdown in the unforgiving landscape of the Antelope Hills. As the two forces prepared for battle, neither side could know for sure what the outcome would be. What was certain, however, was that this battle would be a defining moment in the ongoing war for control of the Texas frontier. The Rangers prepare for the clash as the Texas Rangers set their sights on the heart of Comanche territory. Tensions were high on both sides. Captain Jack Hayes, a seasoned veteran, had led numerous expeditions into Comanche lands before, but this time he knew the stakes were higher than ever. The Rangers had faced heavy resistance in the past, but the raids on settler communities in the previous months had pushed them to the brink. It was no longer just about defending the frontier. It had become a mission to assert control over the vast and dangerous land. The Rangers, though tough and battle-hardened, were far from invincible. They knew they were stepping into hostile territory, and their strategy would have to be well executed to stand a chance against the Comanche. In the days leading up to the battle, Hayes and his men studied the terrain, scouting for an advantage. They knew that the Comanche were masters of the land, and that the rugged Antelope Hills would provide a challenging battleground. The hills themselves were an unforgiving mix of rocky outcrops, dry plains, and sharp cliffs, making it the ideal place for an ambush, something the Comanche excelled at. But Hayes was not one to back down from a challenge. He had led his men through countless dangerous situations, and his leadership was unmatched. He trusted his Rangers, men who were accustomed to the harsh conditions of the frontier. Their horses were swift and strong, and their firearms were some of the best available at the time. They weren't just fighting to protect settlers. They were fighting to prove their own strength, to demonstrate that no tribe, not even the formidable Comanche, could stand against them. The Rangers were prepared for a prolonged conflict. They knew that they couldn't just march into the hills and expect victory. They would have to fight smart, using their superior firepower and tactical advantage to corner the Comanche. However, as much as the Rangers prepared for the battle ahead, they could never fully anticipate the ferocity of the Comanche warriors or the cunning with which they would strike. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, the Comanche were equally resolute. Under the leadership of Pita Nocona, the tribe had long resisted the pressures of white settlement. Nocona, a fierce and strategic leader, knew that his warriors would face an uphill battle. The Rangers were not like other enemies they had fought. These were experienced fighters with powerful rifles, trained in tactics that the Comanche had not encountered in such numbers. But Nocona was no stranger to adversity. As one of the most respected Comanche chiefs, he had led his people through decades of war with settlers and Mexican forces. His knowledge of the land was unparalleled, and his warriors were some of the best mounted fighters in the world. The Comanche's reliance on mobility and speed made them formidable opponents, and Nocona would use every advantage they had. In the days leading up to the battle, Nocona and his warriors prepared for a different kind of fight. While the Rangers might have superior weapons, the Comanche had their own strengths: agility, surprise, and a deep connection to the terrain. The hills, with their rocky outcrops and hidden ravines, would give them the perfect opportunity to strike quickly and disappear just as fast. This would be a battle of stealth and surprise, where the Comanche intended to use the landscape to their advantage and, as always, engage the Rangers in a fight where numbers did not matter, only skill and strategy. Pita Nocona's forces were not just a fighting unit, they were a family. Each warrior knew that the survival of their people rested on their ability to protect their land and culture. The Comanche had been engaged in a long war for their freedom, one that had spanned generations. They had witnessed the encroachment of settlers and soldiers on their territory for years. And now, with the Rangers closing in, Nocona knew that a major confrontation was inevitable. As the Rangers and Comanche warriors moved closer to the Antelope Hills, the tension was palpable. The hills themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the storm to come. The Rangers were ready for a fight, but they could not have known how quickly things would escalate. The Comanche had already begun to set traps and ambush points along the ridges and valleys, creating a battlefield that would be as much a test of patience as it would be of bravery. Then, on the morning of the battle, as the sun began to rise over the rugged landscape, both sides prepared to face off in what would become one of the most memorable and hard-fought battles of the era. Captain Hayes and his Rangers rode toward the hills with determination, their hearts steeled for what lay ahead. They knew the Comanche were waiting for them, but they did not know where or when the first strike would come. The Comanche, in turn, remained hidden, watching from above and below, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Battle of Antelope Hills was about to unfold, an epic showdown between two forces, each with its own claim to the land, each fighting for survival in a rapidly changing world. As the two sides prepared for their fateful clash, the echoes of their previous encounters and the weight of their histories would bear down upon them. The battle unfolds and the aftermath as the morning sun climbed higher in the sky. The moment of confrontation arrived. The Texas Rangers, led by Captain Jack Hayes, advanced cautiously through the rugged terrain of the Antelope Hills. They knew that every step brought them closer to a deadly encounter with the Comanche, whose warriors were hidden among the hills, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The air was thick with anticipation. Each side was ready, but neither could know when or where the first attack would come. The Rangers, mounted on their sturdy horses and armed with their powerful rifles, had a clear advantage in terms of firepower. But they were entering unfamiliar and hostile territory, where the Comanche had an intimate knowledge of the land, and where speed, stealth, and maneuverability would be the deciding factors. As they entered a narrow valley, the Rangers spread out, their eyes scanning the terrain for signs of movement. Every crevice, every shadow, could be hiding a Comanche warrior waiting to strike. Then, without warning, the silence was shattered. A volley of arrows shot from the hills, striking a few of the Rangers' horses and riders, causing chaos among the group. The Comanche had chosen their first moment to strike. From every direction, they descended from their positions on the ridges, riding at breakneck speed and launching a series of well-placed attacks. The Rangers, accustomed to danger, immediately returned fire, but they found themselves out of their element. The Comanche were everywhere, attacking from elevated positions, charging with remarkable speed, and disappearing into the rocky landscape before the Rangers could regroup. The battle was chaotic, a test of both strategy and quick thinking. As the skirmish intensified, Captain Hayes realized that the Comanche were using a strategy of constant mobility, striking in small groups and then retreating before the Rangers could gain a foothold. The Rangers' rifles, powerful as they were, couldn't match the speed and agility of the Comanche warriors, who rode circles around their opponents with unmatched precision. The Comanche fought like shadows, swift, elusive, and relentless. Despite their disadvantage, the Rangers fought with determination. They had been trained to face overwhelming odds, and though they were caught off guard by the ferocity of the Comanche attack, they held their ground. The battle raged on, the sounds of gunfire and war cries filling the air. The terrain, with its sharp cliffs and scattered boulders, made for a disorienting battlefield. Horses and riders fell in the heat of battle, and blood stained the rocky ground as the struggle continued for hours. It was not a battle of brute force, but of endurance. Both sides knew that their survival depended on their ability to outlast the other. The Rangers, though armed with superior weaponry, faced a constant barrage of arrows and surprise attacks. Meanwhile, the Comanche, despite their tactical brilliance, found that the Texans' resistance was not something they could easily break. The clash between these two forces became a brutal test of resolve. In the midst of the battle, with neither side giving ground, Captain Hayes saw an opening. He ordered a strategic retreat, a temporary withdrawal to regroup and gain a better position. It was a risky decision, one that could leave the Rangers vulnerable to a more aggressive Comanche attack, but it was the only chance to turn the tide. The Rangers pulled back to higher ground, where they could better defend themselves and take advantage of their superior firearms. As the Rangers repositioned, the Comanche hesitated, unsure whether to pursue the Texans or hold their ground. The Comanche had inflicted heavy casualties on the Rangers, But they had not achieved a decisive victory. It was a moment of uncertainty, and both sides knew that the next move would be crucial. In that moment of pause, the Rangers' resolve hardened. Captain Hayes gathered his men, and with a renewed sense of purpose, they mounted a counteroffensive. The Rangers' firepower was now more effective as they took control of the higher ground, forcing the Comanche to rethink their strategy. The fight was far from over, but it was clear that the Texans were not easily defeated. As the battle drew to a close, the Comanche, realizing they could not break the Rangers' position, began to pull back. The day's fighting had been costly for both sides, but the Rangers had managed to hold their own, despite the intense pressure. The Comanche had not been completely routed, but their strategy of swift, surprise attacks had been thwarted by the Rangers' perseverance and superior weaponry. By the end of the day, both sides had suffered casualties. While the Texans had proven their ability to stand their ground, the Comanche had shown that they were far from defeated. The Battle of Antelope Hills, though considered a tactical success for the Rangers, was not the end of the conflict between the two sides. The Comanche, though pushed back, would continue to resist the encroachment of settlers and soldiers for years to come. In the aftermath of the battle, the Rangers were forced to reckon with the fact that their victory came at a steep price. While they had managed to hold off the Comanche and defend their position, they knew that the struggle for control over Texas would continue. For the Comanche, the battle was a reminder of the immense challenges they faced as their homeland was slowly taken from them. But it was also a testament to their resilience. They had stood their ground, defied the odds, and proven that they would not go down without a fight. Though the Texas Rangers emerged victorious on that day, the Comanche had not been defeated in spirit. The struggle between these two forces, each fighting for their own survival and vision of the West, would continue for years to come. The Battle of Antelope Hills was just one chapter in the ongoing story of the Texas frontier. A story defined by the clash of cultures, the struggle for power, and the unrelenting pursuit of freedom. The Battle of Antelope Hills stands as a pivotal moment in the history of the American West. It was not just a battle between the Texas Rangers and the Comanche. It was a battle between two worlds, two cultures with different values, different ways of life, and different views on the future of the land. While the Texas Rangers were able to claim victory that day, the price of that victory was high, and the Comanche continued to fight for their way of life long after the battle ended. Their story is one of resilience, bravery, and the unyielding desire to defend their homeland. The Battle of Antelope Hills, though just one of many battles fought on the Texas frontier, remains a powerful reminder of the sacrifices made by those who fought for their homes, their people, and their future. As we reflect on this battle and the history that shaped it, we are reminded that the past is not just a series of events. It is a story of struggle, survival, and the legacies we leave behind. The echoes of the Comanche and the Texas Rangers can still be heard in the winds that sweep across the hills of Texas, and the land they fought for remains a testament to their enduring spirit. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful and inspiring, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel for more eye-opening documentaries, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let me know your thoughts or questions in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.